Think back to last year, when you made that bold claim about the surge in popularity of women's hoops. You said it wasn't just one star, but the both of you. A year later, does that still feel true? Next question. That journalist never finished the thought, but the point was made. With two blunt words, Angel Reese defined the current friction within the WNBA regarding Caitlin Clark, a situation that just took a massive, unexpected turn. Let's break it down. Clark's impact on the professional game is beyond dispute. Huge crowds, packed venues, and record-breaking numbers. However, what is equally obvious is how the league completely botched this golden ticket. Instead of leaning into the Clark phenomenon, many insiders fought against it. They doubted the buzz and tried to minimize her influence. Even worse, they mocked the newcomers. They viewed the Clark effect as a danger rather than a miracle. To any casual observer, this logic was baffling. The WNBA finally found its megastar, bless their souls, but they were clueless. They couldn't wrap their heads around it, worrying they were giving her too much spotlight. Absolutely wrong. Every single matchup needs more of her. Always. She is easily the most transformative figure in any team sport since the days of Michael Jordan. The wins, the cultural breakthrough, the front-page news, the frenzy, and the sold-out arenas. This was exactly what the league desired for decades. They finally held the magic, the talent, the fame, and the societal shift. They are standing at the threshold of serious wealth and global respect. The only problem was Clark being the face of it. For various players, this felt less like a victory lap and more like a mourning period. For some, her rise wasn't just a surprise. It signaled the end of their own fantasy, the hope that they would be the ones to collectively save the sport. Perhaps the most difficult truth to stomach was that after years of hearing that fans simply did not value the female game, the audience finally showed up. They just showed up for her. There are tiers to this, and that is just the way the world works. Everyone deals with it. Yes, Diana, there are levels. Much like a tragedy, we see the media and athletes move through the classic stages of grief, rejection, and fury. Wait until you see how these pieces lock together. It is insane. Honestly, it has been a messy and embarrassing look for the league, but the tide has officially turned. A moment that should have been routine ended up altering the entire landscape. Now, the organization is fully aware of the upcoming wave. They are currently rushing to get on the right side of history. Let's dive into the details. But first, hit like if you are ready to see the league finally give in to Clark. Don't forget to hit subscribe. Let's look back for a moment. Right? The reason people are tuning into the game isn't just about one individual. It is about me as well. I need everyone to recognize that. By this time last season, Caitlin Clark was already dominating the thoughts of half the league's roster. She didn't just debut. She ignited a fire, tripling the ratings and emptying out the merch stands. Every Indiana game was a mandatory viewing experience, with supporters waiting for hours and resellers charging insane prices for basic tickets. If we look at her current production, it is 20 points, 8.4 assists, and 6 rebounds. That is incredible. But the resentment started long before she ever laced up her professional sneakers. The anticipation surrounding her was truly historic. She had recently demolished the all-time collegiate scoring marks for both genders. She led Iowa to consecutive title appearances and filled every seat in every stadium. She fired deep three-pointers as if they were simple layups. Then the draft came. No mystery, no shocks, just a crowning. She was the definitive top choice. More than that, she was the cultural peak. The cameras, the articles, and the major brands. That is where things turned strange, because the sport has seen elite talent before. Aja Wilson, Kelsey Plum, Breanna Stewart, genuine icons and champions. Yet none arrived with this specific chaos. For some, that really hurt. Enter the first phase of mourning, rejection. This wasn't just doubt, it was active defiance. The old guard athletes, pundits, and directors immediately tried to downplay the phenomenon. You could spot the tension before she ever set foot on the hardwood. Clark is arriving, but she isn't the only newcomer. What will the pros have waiting for them when they arrive? Listen, Scott, a reality check is coming. If she had simply arrived and struggled, or even just been mediocre, the skeptics would have had their big moment. The story would have written itself. The pros are a different world. You can't just walk in and dominate the legends who built this house. The hype would have died, interest would fade, and the vets would be right. But that isn't what happened. Her debut pulled in 2,100,000 viewers. The records didn't just break, they shattered. Every tip-off with her on court sent viewership into the absolute stratosphere. Primetime slots, packed houses, and merchandise vanishing in seconds. This wasn't a girl stepping up, it was a queen claiming her throne. Then came the shift. Pure, unadulterated resentment surfaced. Last year's ballots were basically a targeted strike against her legacy. A trio of defenders swarmed her. As she hit 29 points, she was blatantly taken down. No accident that hit was intentional. Carter put up 12 from the sidelines. But once the world realized the hype surrounding Caitlin wasn't a fluke, despite the endless scoffing and harsh headlines, the establishment pivoted toward desperate containment strategies. The real war wasn't in press rooms, but on the hardwood. Intentional or not, the league began fighting her within the game. Opponents got reckless. Brutal picks, blindside shoves, and blatant fouls became the norm. Yet, the officials remained silent. The officials simply looked away. A routine emerged. Allow the physical abuse, hope she snaps, and make her question her own talent. Since the buzz wouldn't fade, they attempted to crush it through sheer force. The evidence was clear every single night. The toll was heavy fatigue and physical pain clouding her mind, yet she didn't break. Not a single tear was shed. Refusing to buckle, she bulked up and returned from the mid-season hiatus, playing at an absolutely legendary level. It was pure dominance, carrying the fever, shattering passing records, and securing her spot among the elite all-stars. After the world saw she was no fluke, the narrative shifted to bargaining, a frantic attempt to rationalize this new era. People started mental gymnastics, grasping at excuses just to cling to the status quo they felt slipping away. It was about hierarchy and power. Truth be told, many veterans were simply mourning the death of their own vanity. She arrived like a hurricane, instantly stealing the glory that the old guard had guarded so fiercely for years. Their solution? Flip the script. They weaponized standard media tropes regarding identity and racial optics. Time magazine recently crowned her Athlete of the Year, prompting critics to ask why the entire league wasn't sharing that spotlight. You simply can't ignore the sea of young fans flocking to every arena just to catch a glimpse of her. Rows of families, electric vibes, and pure adoration, it was undeniable. But people started questioning the motivation behind it. They chalked it up to her being a Midwestern girl. Attacking her head-on was too risky, so they got creative. They pivoted to collateral damage, vilifying the fan base and accusing the press of manufacturing the entire phenomenon. In their eyes, she was a puppet of favoritism. The claim was simple. She was riding a wave of unearned privilege. Critics dismissed her followers as phonies, suggesting that supporting her was merely a byproduct of racial bias. Ignore the fact that a newcomer was outpassing the vets and selling out stadiums at an unprecedented rate. Her massive impact on viewership was brushed aside. The conversation wasn't about her talent, it was about shifting the blame. They made it about prejudice. They'd admit she was gifted, sure, but then immediately pivot to a different grievance. They argued that plenty of legends were overlooked before she showed up, and they refused to let that point go. It's a textbook manipulation tactic. Scream a falsehood often enough, and the public starts accepting it as the absolute truth. Consequently, a portion of the fan base now genuinely thinks she's a fraud who just happened to be in the right place. If the goal was to kill the momentum with these stories, they failed miserably. The fire only grew hotter. Gradually, top-tier talent began flocking to Indiana. These weren't benchwarmers looking for a paycheck. They were established stars. We are talking about decorated winners like Bonner, Howard, and Colson athletes who had their pick of any team. Their goal was singular: land in Indianapolis. It wasn't about the staff. It was about the chance to play alongside her. Not long ago, pundits like Swoops described the Fever as a ghost town that no self-respecting player would visit. Even Taurasi brought up those old stigmas, but that talk died fast. Indiana is no longer a stop, it's the epicenter. Then, the walls came down. History was made when the league finally booked the iconic United Center for the first time. The Sky and Fever are set to clash at the Big House on June 7th and again on July 27th. It started with massive venue switches. Schedules shifted solely for her presence, regardless of the standings or team balance. It wasn't for the elite vets. It was for her. Small market teams were forced into massive NBA stadiums just to survive. The hype was non-negotiable. If she was on the roster, you needed every seat possible. Then the TV networks chimed in. Out of 44 matches, the Fever are slated for 41 national broadcasts. That is nearly a complete sweep. This isn't just being seen, it's total cultural dominance. The big networks weren't playing it safe at all. They went all in on a single star, gambling everything that the Caitlin Clark phenomenon was a goldmine. Headlining night after night was just the starting point. Then came the exhibition phase, a single warm-up match completely packed a 15,000-seat Coliseum. This was merely pre-season. No standings, zero playoff pressure, just her presence. Supporters dropped massive stacks of cash just for the shoot-around. With typical entries hitting $650, the sheer scale was staggering. Calculate 15,000 entries at that rate. You realize nearly $9,750,000 flowed for an early season clash. Clearly, her gravitational pull was undeniable. Forget the buzz or corporate fluff. This was cold, hard reality. It signaled a financial and cultural earthquake. Other athletes faced a jarring shift as franchises pivoted. Organizations stopped centering veterans, betting everything on her. Ad campaigns revolved around her arrivals. Revenue spiked exclusively when she touched down. Networks, corporations, and the bleachers all felt the seismic change. Between the frenzy and the overflowing venues, a new paradigm finally took root across the professional landscape. Resignation turned to realization. Rivals began acknowledging the truth. Never before had opponents relocated to massive stadiums just to accommodate the demand. If her presence floods the sport with unprecedented viewership, why resist the influx of primetime slots? We must recognize that when a single star flourishes, the entire collective prospers. Greater visibility unlocks doors for every athlete on the roster. Let us be real, she is a complete force of nature. Looking back at my own debut, struggling to find my footing in this professional grind, the jump seemed impossible. Adapting to this elite pace is a brutal awakening for most newcomers. Yet, here she is, shattering all-time assist benchmarks as a mere debutante. The sheer insanity of that feat often goes overlooked by the casual observer. But we can dive deeper later. Massive respect to her game. Her court vision remained legendary despite the crushing pressure. However, the public focused largely on those audacious long-distance bombs and her relentless scoring volume. I get the fascination. It is pure electric theater. Still, I maintain she would evolve into the greatest floor general the league has ever witnessed. The narrative was messy at times. We saw plenty of slights, hypocrisies, and critics ready to tear her down. Regardless, the atmosphere underwent a fundamental transformation. The very pundits who once nitpicked her style now praise her dedication and cultural weight. Even those fellow competitors who remained cold are finally offering genuine flowers. This is not just about talent, it is about a total revolution of the sport itself. Then came the definitive turning point, her return to Iowa. Crowds swarmed the streets, a sea of gold surrounding the arena while the entire city held its collective breath. Everyone scrambled for a single glimpse of their local legend's triumphant re-entry. Over 1,300,000 viewers tuned in for that televised showcase. It was not merely the attendance or the hype, it was the statement it made relative to the wider sporting world. She did not just dominate women's hoops, she outperformed the major men's leagues. Beyond the ratings, her performance under that scrutiny defined the night. She did not buckle, she absolutely thrived. Caitlin weaponized the pressure, delivering exactly what the masses craved. Brazil loses the ball, she takes over. There she goes, launching a missile from the logo. With the world watching, she pulled up and drained a three from the exact hardwood where her college legend began. This was more than a basket, it was a declaration. The arena erupted in pure chaos. At that moment, it transcended sport and became high-level drama. It was a narrative masterpiece, a poetic return timed to perfection. She grasped the gravity of the setting and served up an unforgettable masterclass. What I find most fascinating about her is her innate ability to recognize the weight of a moment and lean into it. She possesses this uncanny instinct to give the public precisely what they are begging for. The girl is a mind reader. She shattered history with that signature shot for a reason. There is a rare magnetic force at play, but it requires an ironclad ego and the audacity to say, "I see you watching, and I am going to blow your mind." It is absolutely brilliant. That kind of swagger is infectious. I live for players who demand every lens stay focused on them. It is pure entertainment. She is fully self-aware. Even the international squad from Brazil could not help but get caught up in the storm. Post-game, they did not just offer polite handshakes and disappear. They swarmed her like paparazzi, grinning and hunting for photos as if they were meeting a god. To her fans, she'd become a living god. We're witnessing her personal Michael Jordan era unfold. This was the pinnacle. A packed house, 1,300,000 viewers, and rivals begging for autographs. We inhabit a world of sound bites where perception usually outshouts the facts. Now, reality finally caught the hype. The statistics were common knowledge. Everyone tracked the broadcast shifts, arena renovations, merchandise explosions, and the buzz. But this felt different. This was the exact moment the facade shattered the lie that this was about anyone else. Look, 1,300,000 people watched on ESPN, 1,300,000 souls. Let me provide some context. No NBA preseason matchup has pulled that crowd in 7 years. Only 2 exhibition games in the Professional Men's League have hit that mark in 15 years. More fans viewed this preseason opener than the first game of last year's finals. Baseball doesn't compare. Their peak was 912,000 people 20 years ago. Caitlin Clark just redefined the ceiling. The landscape has shifted forever. Is she the favorite for the crown? I absolutely believe so. Regarding her stats, she averaged 19 points and 8 assists. I love that you're tallying this now. Keep that count going loud. 19 and 8 last season, but her finish was even more impressive. Following the mid-season break, she caught absolute fire. She was averaging 12 assists per night during that run. Her roster is deeper now, providing more weapons to find. Plus, she finally had a proper offseason. It's a delicate balance, but she's a once-in-a-generation phenomenon. No league relies on just one person. However, Caitlin attracted tens of millions of fresh eyes, and you cannot ignore that massive footprint. We constantly discuss her status as America's most beloved athlete. Suddenly, the critics are joining her camp. Critics and analysts are pivoting to support her much more than they did just weeks ago. Why? Because after those preseason ratings and sold-out arenas, the argument was officially over and settled. This season, everyone is scrambling to land on the right side of history after a rocky start. The narrative is locked. They are just waiting for her to explode so they can claim victory. Caitlyn wasn't just riding a lucky streak. She was grinding harder than anyone else in the gym. While peers relaxed, she was balancing elite appearances, executive meetings, and high-profile events across the country. Yet, she was still hitting the hardwood by 8 in the morning without fail every single time. That isn't just work ethic. That's a legendary obsession ripped straight from the Black Mamba's playbook. Whatever you call that killer instinct, that relentless drive, there is no denying she possesses it fully. She has returned larger, more powerful, and ready to dominate. Her physique is forged for the grind. Her tactical mind is sharper, and her poise under pressure has skyrocketed. She isn't just adapting. She is preparing for a total takeover. Even her detractors are pivoting to praise her now. Others simply acknowledge the truth through their silence. Next issue. The pain of losing the spotlight. That reality stings differently for everyone. Some vent their anger while others retreat into the shadows. A few veterans have embraced the change instantly. Regardless of the reaction, the new era is here. The evidence is undeniable. The scale is overwhelming. That Iowa preseason spectacle wasn't just a fluke. It was the resurrection of the Caitlin Clark effect. This time, it's going to be even bigger. If you are still locked in, drop a trophy in the comments for making it. Thanks for watching the show.